Prosecutors have called their next witness to testify in former President Trump's criminal hush money trial. A lead compliance analyst at AT&T is now testifying as a custodian of records. Prosecutors questioned former White House aide Madeleine Westerhout just a little while ago, who exchanged a smile with her former boss as she left the witness stand. And this all comes after Stormy Daniels gave dramatic testimony yesterday, and now the prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen, is expected to testify on Monday. ABC News executive editorial producer John Santucci joins me now, along with Adam Schlehett of Fordham School of Law for more. John, what's the latest from the courtroom?
So Madeleine Westerhout is off the stand. This was Donald Trump's executive assistant at the White House. This was the person, as we knew, was expected to complete the paper trail, right? She was the one that received the checks that were sent down for Trump Tower for Donald Trump to sign. Those checks, part of the reimbursements that went to Michael Cohen, Diane. So she's done. Pretty quick morning for her. Now we're moving into more of the custodial witnesses. There's a person on the stand right now that is an employee at AT&T, probably something to do with phone records, something that, you have to imagine the defense didn't stipulate to. So it's a little bit of, I hate to say it, but this is where we get into some of the boring testimony. I mean, it's a rainy Friday here in New York, so why not? But one of the things that's interesting from our team's observations is that, look, it's been a crazy day in court this week. We know everything that would happen with Stormy Daniels, the comptroller at the beginning of the week. I can't believe it's all the same week. But those jurors, the same way that you and I are exhausted, maybe you're not, I am, the jurors are exhausted. Our teams observed them rubbing their eyes, sitting back, some of them not taking notes as much. This is where it gets a little, I hate to say dull and boring, but indeed just that.
Adam, now that Westerhout is off the stand, what do you make of her testimony overall? Because she seemed to score some points for both the prosecution and the defense.
For the prosecution, I think that was in their analysis in deciding to call her to the stand. She's a Trump loyalist who still nonetheless had to tell the truth, and some of that truth was damning to the defendant. I don't think that she provided enough value to the defense to really say that she was beneficial to them.
And Adam, as John pointed out, today's expected to be mostly custodial witnesses. The jury is less into it, it seems, than they were some of the previous testimony we saw. So how important are these records to the case? And as an attorney, how do you keep a jury engaged during this part of a trial?
Well, some of the testimony in terms of maintaining records is not that interesting, but the records themselves may be very interesting, especially somebody from a phone company who may be showing phone calls, when phone calls were made. He may even be testifying in order to get in recordings of phone calls. So the evidence that's coming in may be very interesting, even though the foundation they need to lay to get it in is not so exciting.
And Adam, I want to touch on one of the final points made in Westerhout's testimony, because the defense seems to really be going back to this concept of former President Trump as a multitasker. We heard this during questioning with Rona Graff and Hope Hicks, and now again with Madeleine Westerhout saying he was a multitasker. He used to take phone calls while signing checks. He would have conversations with other people while signing checks, sometimes would sign those checks without reviewing them. And we heard Westerhout say, yes, that all of those things happened today. Why is that so important? If he signed the checks at the heart of this case, does it matter if he was paying full attention to those checks?
Well, it does matter in terms of his criminal intent, right? If he's just sitting at his off desk and just signing and doesn't know what he's doing, then it's hard for him to know what he's actually doing and what those checks mean. However, this same witness earlier in her testimony talked about how she had to double check with him to buy a $600 frame. This is an incredibly wealthy person who still wants to know a $600 expense and needs to approve that. So I think it's going to be very difficult for the defense to argue that he didn't know what he was doing when he was so focused on what he was doing and what he was spending.
And it sounds like Daniel Dixon's direct examination is now over. He'll be cross-examined by the defense, but prosecutors used him to enter phone records from Michael Cohen's company phone that we expect to see when Michael Cohen then testifies. John, that's coming on Monday. Yeah. What are you watching for there?
Well, I mean, this is clearly all setting the table for what's going to be, I would argue, the most fascinating and insane day of testimony to come on Monday. So buckle up. I'll be with you all day. Get ready. You look so happy. I can't believe But look, I think that Michael Cohen, is the witness, right? We know this. This all began because of Michael Cohen. So let's just rewind the tape a little bit, because I do think it's important here. Michael Cohen talking to Robert Mueller, the special counsel, the first special counsel that Donald Trump had to deal with. That was the one focused on the Russia investigation. That's how this all happened, because what happened is that when Mueller built his report at the end of the day, right, that was focused solely on Russia, which Michael Cohen had a little role in at the time, he took anything that he thought could also be criminal actions or activity and passed it along to other people. So he took Michael Cohen's comments, given they were related to Trump's business apparatus, dealings around the campaign, etc., and he sent them up to New York. He sent them to New York Southern District, where prosecutors on the federal level did move forward looking into Cohen, and he sent them to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office under Alvin Bragg's predecessor, Cy Vance. It's from there that this investigation was born. So Michael Cohen really spilling all to federal prosecutors that were working on a totally different matter is how we came into this moment. Now, Michael Cohen has not sat in a witness box and told his truth yet about these dealings. And that's where this is all going to become really fascinating, because at the end of the day, there were 3 people that knew about this deal that is the center of this case. David Pecker, who was the first witness, Michael Cohen, who's likely to be the last witness, and they both argued Donald Trump. And that was the deal. So I think that Cohen is really going to have a lot to walk the team through in the courtroom, so everyone can hear it, all sides, the jury, the press, both, Trump's team, prosecutors, etc. Now, he's also got a big credibility issue, because on those federal charges, he went to prison for lying to federal investigators. In their opening statements, prosecutors here already got ahead of that and acknowledged that the guy's got a damaged record. But nevertheless, he's the star witness.
All right, John Santucci, Adam Schlahett, thank you both. We will be following this trial all day long. We'll bring you the latest right here on ABC News Live.